Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to VSL Season 1 for round number 17 here at Japan. Looking like clear blue skies here on the circuit of Suzuka today. 12 drivers currently on the grid for tonight's race. Obviously we have our F1 and F2 format between these set drivers. But before as qualifying gets underway, as people start doing their outlooks, I will be running through the current drivers and constructors standings. It's getting quite spicy in the F2 Championship, so a quick look through those. Going through the F1 standings, Matt Tibble still leading comfortably the championship with 197 points, with a 67 point gap to EVR Mada on 130. Close by is AMK Futures 126, and further adrift is Lee with 80, with Zenki with 97 points. However, looking closely at the F2 standings, it is very spicy at the top. Kyle is currently leading after last week in Russia. He has 224 points, with Big Metzer in the McLaren close by with 210. Then we have the Toro Rosso of Rover Jeep with 199, level on points with previous championship leading driver of Y-Racer in the Renault. Then you have Major Davis with 162 points. With 5 Grand Prix to go, it is still all to play for. Even Major Davis could get himself into this championship battle in F2. Looking at the constructors, we have Haas leading the way with 178. McLaren have 171, just 7 points adrift, so great job from the McLaren boys. Ferrari with 142, so both Mats of EVR Mada and Major Davis will be looking to get double points to try and drag themselves into this. Renault have fallen adrift after learning early on to 130 points, but as we said, there's still all to play for. Toro Rosso with 120, Mercedes 104, Williams 81, Red Bull 37, Force India 27, and Sal with a lowly 19 points. So, looking into this, we already have our banker lap time from our F1 driver of ILRT Neo. He is currently set on a set of mediums. That is an outstanding lap time on a set of mediums, 1:28.0, a lot quicker than a lot of drivers I've seen time trial doing on a set of supers. But it'll be very interesting to see what tyres people will be setting lap times on. I'm not too sure what the strategic call will be, as I haven't driven this track on this game on a 50% race, so it'll be very interesting to see what tyres people pick. A lot of people are choosing for the two harder compounds. We see Marged setting a lap time of 1:30, 2.3 seconds slower than Neo on the same set of tyres. So it looks like Neo could be one to watch for the race victory overall and just purely in F1, as Zenki goes quicker with a 1:26.9 on a set of supers. So he looks like he's just going all out on a set of supers, with Flexi coming in third with a 1:28.4, and so that's only F1 drivers of set lap times currently, as Davis gets himself on the board with a 1:29.8 on a set of mediums, so putting himself in provisional pole position for F2. As time's starting to come through now, we'll keep an eye on Big Metzer as he comes through the final corner. What kind of lap time will he be setting? He is on a set of mediums, and across the line he goes. P2 currently in F2 with a 1:30.5, so not too far off the F1 driver of Marged, but 7 tenths separate himself and Major Davis in the Ferrari. So some interesting lap times and tyre choices from these few drivers. Our championship leader of Kyle is out on a set of softs. He's coming through the chicane now of Casio Triangle, and around the final corner he comes, I think, to start a lap time. He does indeed, so we are going to ride on board with him now as he comes through this lap, through the first couple of corners here. Very late under the brakes and there you can gain so much time there. Through the very difficult S section, or the S curves, it's very difficult to get all these corners correctly and perfect. You mess up one corner and the exit, you're slightly off for the following section of corners, but nicely through there as it comes through the Dunlop curve and then towards the Degner curve and up towards turn 9 along this very interesting little section of turn 10 and then into the hairpin of turn 11. Nice and late on the brakes there, kind of keep it close to the apex, as close as possible, and now onto this full flat turn 12 and 13 towards Spoon curve. Should be shifting down into 4th as he does, as he comes to the exit of Spoon curve. Now up to the fastest corner on this track of 130R before he would have a heavy braking zone into the chicane of the Castillo Triangle, through flat through 130R. OS in full use there, brakes on lately into the Castillo Triangle. Through the final corner we go. What kind of lap time are we looking at here? It looks like it's going to be 129.4, so puts himself a provisional pole for the F2 drivers, and currently only 0.03 of a second slower than Flexi in F1 on the same set of tyres. So excellent lap from him. Will he be one to go out again on these tyres, do a cool down lap and then push again? Although it doesn't look like it because he's low on fuel, so he'll be coming in to refuel, maybe go out again on these same tyres, or will he be pushing to get that bonus point for pole position, as is interesting to see in this tier. Bonus point for pole position and then bonus point for the fastest lap during the race. So pole position is quite key on the aspect of getting points, but not that key on the thoughts of tyre strategy. Still 4 drivers yet to set a lap time. Both Renaults are have not been out yet, and neither is the other Mercedes of Ahmed and the solo Toro Rosso of Robojeep. Just riding on board with EVR Mado. He looks like he's on a cool down lap. We'll see if anyone else is on lap. Davis is on a cool down lap. Kyle is on a cool down lap. So no one currently out on laps. Few drivers of Magid, Metzer and Flexi all on out laps, just to see what tyres are on. Flexi's on a set of supers. Margaret is coming through 130R now very slowly, but starting to prepare himself for his push towards the front of the grid for F1. So through the final corner he comes. He's going to be pushing like anything to get as much speed as possible down this long straight towards turn 1 and 2. Very difficult corners here. It's like you start turning into turn 1 in high speed and then under the brakes through the second half of turn 1 and into turn 2. Catching up a little bit of grass there as he goes into the S curves. Trying not to get as much curve as possible because the tyres do tend to spin up on the rear when reaching some curve. He does have a little bit of traffic in front of him, as I can see. So yeah, the McLaren gets out the way very easily. That must have been Zenki on his outlap. So running on board with the solo Red Bull driver. Yellow flags in sector 3. That must be for either slow drivers. I haven't seen anybody retired yet. But coming up towards turns 12 now and up towards the Spoon curve. Very quick on this lap, trying to change the mixture between the EOS very conservatively, because if you keep running in the highest mixture as possible, quite wide on the exit of the Spoon curve actually, but runs it nicely onto the curb and down towards 130R, up at nearly 200 miles an hour as he hits the rev limiter through 130R, flat through there, no lift on the throttle, towards the Castillo Triangle of turn 16, 17 and 18, and around turn 18 he goes, and across the line. Does he make an improvement? He does indeed, a 128.7 on a set of supers. Nowhere near Neo's time on a set of mediums. He actually went quicker, Neo, 127.7 on the mediums, but he's currently on an outlap on a set of softs. So what he's going to do now is try and push himself towards pole position. Margaret, great show there. He's currently sitting in P4 on a set of supers. Maybe he's got enough time to. It looks like he's pushing again. He is using high mixtures, so maybe he's just trying to push to see what will happen. I'm not too sure on the weather forecast for the race, but from the look of things, it looks like it's going to be a dry start. He's sliding the rear everywhere through turn 9 and turn 10 up towards the hairpin. Lock of the rears into turn 11. So he might abandon this lap at the end. I don't think he's going to improve. And it's interesting that he is pushing, because tyre wear is very key in this one. It's very wide on the exit of the spoon curve. Now towards a 130R. We'll have a little flick through to see what drivers are on lap times. Metzer is on a set of softs, so currently setting his best time on the soft as well, 129.5. Tibos is out of the pits and ready to set his first lap time of the day. Rover Jeep has finally come out. YRS is still in the pits, maybe only going for that one run, as there were yellow flag in sector 1 and 2, probably for slow cars, and Ahmed is still not out of the pits either. Zenki's still on provisional pole with 5 minutes to go in that McLaren. He wants to get as many points as possible to push towards the constructors title with himself and Metzer, whereas the solo Haas, no, not the solo Haas, the Haas of Neo coming into Castillo Triangle now. It looks like he's on a flyer. He is indeed. See if he can crack the DRS wide open. Open it goes across the line. Only a 127.3, so not much of an improvement to his time set on the mediums, and still 4/10 away of Zenki on pole position. Metzer has retired from the Grand Prix, and so has Zenki. Zenki won't be going out anymore, and neither will Metzer. The McLaren boys have thought they've had enough. 4 minutes left, and they've said no more. Don't want any more to push any more on those Renault engines in this qualifying session. But so which means it's a final push for these few drivers that want to get pole position. So I will seriously doubt that Zenki will be on pole position towards the end of this qualifying session. I feel that a lot of other drivers have a lot more time to improve, but a 126.9 is very quick around this track. Neo does have to find 4 more tenths, but we're going to ride on board. Tibos has come in to the pits. Those set softs didn't think they were good enough to go out on a lap on, or is he just wanting to start towards the back on fresher rubber, as we ride on board with Rover Jeep in the Toro Rosso up towards spoon curb now. Touches the inside curb, doesn't want to run wide and touch the exit curb, but through turns 13 and 14 off spoon. Now the long back straight towards 130R. We go again. Flat out in 8th gear, nearly 200 miles an hour through that corner. So much downforce on these cars that it can go flat at 200 miles an hour through that corner. Into 16, 17, and now round 18. What he's going to do his first lap time on the board be. It's only a 129.8, so it's the slowest lap time we've got of this session so far, and currently sits him in the 4th place within the F2 series. So Major Davis is still in the pits. He thinks the 129.4 is quick enough for him to get pole position for F2, with Kyle only 8 thousandths of a second behind him on the same set of tyres. So our championship battle is livening up here, because Davis wants to drag himself into it, and he's going to be holding all the other drivers behind. On board with Ahmed as he goes through his first competitive lap time. He hasn't set one yet. Still one of 3 drivers yet to set one. Both Tibos and YRS look like to be coming out now of the pits, for the Renault boys wanting to get themselves a lap time in from the look of things. Tibos opting for a different strategy to his teammate. So it'll be very interesting where these two drivers qualify on the grid. Still on board with Ahmed in that wonderful Mercedes machine towards sector 2, round turn 12 towards Spoon Curve. Once again, not many drivers making many mistakes on this track, as I've seen, keeping it nice and clean, no running wide, no getting their laps invalidated, hopefully. So good to see from all of these drivers, keeping it nice and clean on their flying laps of this qualifying session. Less than a minute to go, so Ahmed will get one more lap in after this if he wants to push for it. So through turn 17 now, round turn 18, up towards the line. What does this put him? It puts him provisional pole for the F2 drivers. That's a 129.4. That's 3 drivers with a 129.4 in F2. Fantastic work from the Mercedes boys. Just about 11 thousandths quicker than Kyle in a Haas, who managed to jump Davis, as Kyle is running very slowly, so he won't be doing any more laps on those. We'll keep our eye on Tibos on his flyer as he comes through turns 1, 2 and up towards the wonderful S section that is very difficult on this track, especially if you're using a pad. Using the wheel, it's not as difficult, but it's still a very difficult section of this track, and it's the only track in the F1 calendar that crosses over itself. So it's one of the longest as well, 3.6 miles, as he comes towards Degner Curve and turn 9 up towards the hairpin. Would he get his braking right into the hairpin? Nicely late on the race into turn 1 to rotate the car a little bit easier. A lot of drivers only go into second, me personally only second, and up towards through turn 12, a long turn 12, and towards the Spoon Curve once again. Takes the inside line very nicely onto the curve on the exit, takes as much space as possible. Now for his run through towards the 130R, getting up to that 200 mile an hour. As Neo has retired, he won't be getting pole position, but we will be running on board, sticking with this Renault driver of the championship leader in F2 towards turn 16 and 17. He goes round turn 18 as well. Where is this going to put Tibos as he crosses the line? It's only P3 on a set of super softs. It's 2/10 shy of P2 and 3.1 tenths off pole position. So I think that's going to be it. It is indeed. YS does not set a lap time. He's going to be starting at the very back of the grid for Renault. So there we have it. There is our grid for the F1 and F2 drivers in VSL around Japan. It's going to be a very interesting race. And the looks of things, it's going to be a dry race as well. But the tyre strategy call from all these drivers. So I'll get a run through the classification of the grid when it loads through. So there we have it. Zenki in the McLaren snatches pole position for McLaren in F1 ahead of ILRT Neo in P2. Matt Tibos gets his 1 lap in to get P3, Flexi in P4 and EV Armada P5 in the Ferrari. P6 for Margaret Showman, and then it's the F2 drivers of Ahmed taking pole position. He gets that bonus point for Mercedes. Kyle keeping his championship alive ahead of his championship rivals in P2. Then we have Davis in the other Ferrari, and McLaren of Big Metza in P10 or P5 or P4. And then you have Rora Jeep in the Toro Rosso, and then Yuri rounding out the F2 grid in P6. Still all points up for grab from both tiers. Finish the race, gets himself some points. So people will be looking at trying to get themselves into the championship as much as possible, especially F1, seeing as Matt Tibos is running away with it with his massive 67 point gap. I'm going to try and do some maths. and see if where he needs to finish to seal himself the championship. I don't think if he wins and Matt retires, I don't think that's enough, as he will be on 192 and Matt will be on 130. Still, oh, actually no, it won't be 192, he'll be on 192. What am I doing? What am I chatting? 197 plus the 25 points will set him to 122 points. So he won't seal the championship, Tibos, if he finishes in first and Mada fails to finish. So it's still all to play for in the F1 standings, but for F2 is one that we want to be looking at, as it's going to be a 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5-way battle all the way towards the end of the season for these boys. For Davis, he's going to have to be very clinical, get himself towards the front, try and get as many points as possible. He will need to make a few overtakes, as there are 2 F2 drivers in front of him. So if he wanted to get himself into this constructors title, drivers battle for the title, he needs to make some overtakes, get overtaking Kyle and get overtaking Ahmed, and get himself another win on the board. And in terms of other drivers, Metzer needs to get some points on Kyle. Basically everyone except Kyle need to get some decent points if they want to bag themselves a chance and close in Kyle in the championship. So it looks to be it's going to be a 2-way fight for the F1 title, a 5-way, possible 5-way fight for F2 as we go through the formation lap. A few drivers have been disqualified, naughty from you guys, of Kyle and Y-Racer, so you'll be sitting on the grid with nice cold tyres ready for your start. Quick look at tyres. Oh dear, no, we want this. Tyres, Jeep and Y-Racer, those who had 3 choice tyres, are both starting on a set of softs. Davis will be on a set of mediums, as that was his quickest time in qualifying. There are a few super soft drivers, so there'll be a few drivers to look out for, and the rest are all on softs. So Ahmed, Kyle both on softs. Davis is going to be running along into this on mediums, and the rest of the F2 boys on softs as well. So here we go then for the round number 17 of the Japanese Grand Prix. 2, 3, 4 and 5 lights are here, and out they go here at Suzuka, right on board with Tibos, who is somehow starting in P2 as Zenki seems to be disconnected from the grid. But a great start from Neo up towards turn 1. He is in first place with Tibos in second, with Margaret in P3. Great start from those boys as well. A little bit of yellow flags further back, as you see Flexi has dropped way down the field after starting high up the grid. But an excellent start from Neo, as Zenki seemed to have vanished from the grid. It doesn't seem to be in the lobby at all, as Tibos is right on the back of Neo going towards turns 8 and 9, as Flexi has retired from the Grand Prix. Didn't get very far around his first lap, but it's absolute storming start from Tibos on those super softs. He wants to get away and past Neo as quickly as possible. A little bit of action I can see around the bottom of the grid. Davis, and actual improvement from Jeep, has bagged himself up to P2 in the F2 series in this race. Tibos will be wanting to make moves as quickly as possible. There'll be no DRS, but he will get slipstream, as he runs very wide on the exit of Spoon Cove, kicking up a little bit of dirt and grass. You can see a little bit of battle between Evio, Mada and Margaret, as well as Mada and Margaret look like to be going side by side up towards 130R. Mada wants to try it around the outside. Margaret runs wide but keeps the position towards 16 and 17 as the drivers start to file towards the end of this first lap. As we run through the running order at the end of lap 1, we have Neo in first, Tibos in second, Margaret third, Matt fourth, then Davis leading the way in as you can see, a little bit of a battle between Neo and Matt. Davis leading the way in F2, excuse me, but it's going to look like going to be side by side going through turns 3 and 4, and Matt Tibos has taken the lead. quite comfortably actually. It looked like Neo let him through, as it looked like Neo might have made a mistake into turns 1 and 2 as the drivers were squabbling towards the braking zones of 1 and 2. So Matt will now want to push on as quickly as possible, as he will be he's on softer tyres, so his tyres will wear away a lot quicker than the rest of the grid, as Ahmed is already in the pit. Absolute disaster class from the Mercedes after starting on pole position in the starting on pole position in F2. 32 seconds now off the pace. He must have ended up getting some wing damage as well, so he's going to be pushing a long way into this race on those mediums, as will Davis. As I was saying, Davis is now the leading driver in F2 in P5, Ferrari 4.5 or Ferrari 4.1. Then excellent work from RoboG, getting himself into P2 after starting further down the grid. But we're looking at this battle between EVR Mada and Margaret as they go side by side once again towards 130R. Side by side through there is not going to happen. Margaret runs wide once again, and Mada has the position of P3. Another podium looks to be on the cards for him in this Grand Prix in the Ferrari, and he's now going to push on, as Margaret was on the faster tyres on a set of supers. So looking through the action, as RoboG looks like he might be squaring up a move on Major Davis in the other Ferrari. Let's go through turn 1. A nice tight line from RoboG, a little bit slower through there than Davis, but which is leaving him a little bit astray to Kyle, which is closing in. He made a few mistakes. He still sits in the top 3 for F2 at the moment, but as Tibos gets himself already a 3-second time penalty. That's 2. I saw Magad get one as well in the Red Bull, so there's 2 drivers already getting penalties as this grid is starting to bunch up. Magad is losing time left, right and centre as the other Ferrari tries to make a move all down to quite aggressive there from Major Davis up the inside. Looking like he swiped at him to tell him to make the space and leave me room to go up the inside. But he has made the move, and Margaret is just losing places left, right and centre. He has got a look from the looks things. He might have wing damage. He does indeed on that right end plate. So whether that was contact between himself and the first Ferrari or the second Ferrari, he is running very slowly. Will he be pitting at the end of this lap to push onto a set of mediums to try and run as far as he can into this race, as the grid is still keeping itself bunched up? The 2 Ferrari boys separated by a nice comfortable 3 seconds, as Tibos and Neo are side by side going down towards 1. Neo has the DRS wide open and retakes the first place in this Grand Prix, as Kyle gets a 5-second stop-go penalty for a severe collision with Juarez. So what happened there? What happened there between these 2 boys? I will be looking on Juarez's stream to see what happened between those 2, but Kyle getting himself a 5-second penalty for a severe collision. So Tibos is going to have to think now, regroup, push again to try and get himself back into the lead. He must have been slow coming out of the chicane, as Neo has made a massive mistake actually, me not paying attention. What has happened there? He is now dropped back. He must have had a really bad exit of turn 9 and now drops a second or so behind Tibos. Tibos will be very happy about that. He'll be like, I don't need to push now to get back by you, just basically let me through. So the battle for P1 is still on between F2. It's between Davis and RoboG, both title contenders, still in F2, with Metzer in P3, get himself up on board for a podium. Juarez are making some moves up to P7 or P4. We will be investigating what happened between himself and Kyle, and why Kyle got himself a 5-second penalty for a severe collision. And then Ahmed is slowly back in a solo race himself on the mediums. See if he can claw back some time between these drivers when it comes to the pit stops. And then Margaret has made his pit stop onto a set of softs, and from the looks of things he has changed his front wing. He has indeed. So he did have wing damage that set him back behind Ahmed in pit stops, but then again he won't be really fighting these for any points. The people he'll be fighting for is either EVR Mada, Neo and Tibos, as Neo and Matt are right next to each other once again. coming towards the hairpin. Will Niobe wanted to make the move early. He's going to try around the outside of Matt into the hairpin. He gets a better run of the switchback, loses the rear a little bit, but it's going to be side by side, nearly side by side between these two towards turn 12, up towards the spoon curve, but sticks it back in P2. He's going to have the slipstream up towards 130R. Who's going to have the better exit of turn 14? And here we go then towards 130R. We've seen a few side by side actions towards 130R. We also know that it doesn't work, so Neo is going to be forced the outside. He does hold back. Tibos runs wide towards the chicane now. Who's going to be later on the brakes? Neo is holding himself back. He seems to be the quicker driver at the moment as he's pushing Tibos round the chicane and up towards the line and across the start finish straight we go. Neo will have DRS. They're going to be side by side into turn 1. Looks like Neo's going to have the job done way before the braking zone of turn 1. He does indeed. Although Tibos is going to come back, it looks like he might be sticking his nose up the inside of turn 2. Neo had a very bad exit of turn 1 into 2, and Tibos wanted that, put himself up there and see if Neo would make a mistake. But he has started to fall away now. He's back to 6/10 and running further and further behind, but hopefully he can get the first position once again if Neo ends up making another mistake, as we've seen quite a few times from this driver. He doesn't normally want to be making mistakes. He's want to be just, once he gets in first, he just runs away with it. There's a yellow flag in sector 1 and 2. What is that for? Quickly flicking through the drivers. I don't see anybody with any wing damage, although Davis has fallen away from Robo Jeep and is behind him as well, so he must have been one causing the flags in sectors 1 and 2. So Robo Jeep is now your race leader for F2 with a nice cushy 6-second gap to Davis, who has a 2.8 second gap to Metzer. So the grid is starting to fall away now, especially between Tibos and Neo in the lead. The gap is 2 seconds, so those supers are not lasting very long there between those guys, so it could bring Mada in. And as you can see, Tibos has got himself into the pits. He does get a 5-second stop penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Not good speed control from the Renault driver, as Kyle is right on the back of Juarez, who is also right on the back of Metzer in the McLaren. So as we go round the final corner across the start finish line to start themselves onto lap 7, looks like it's going to be a 3-way battle with Tibos falls further and further behind after making that pit stop. He's going to be coming out behind these F2 drivers. Will it make it easier or harder for him to punch through the pack, as these drivers won't be wanting to give away these positions easily, as Juarez goes round the outside and then have the inside of Metzer in through the S curves. Excellent move there from Juarez to get himself up into the podium positions. It looks like Metzer's got himself a little problem. He's now side by side with Kyle going through the Degner curve, and Kyle takes the position away from Metzer. That's 2 positions lost in the space of 1 sector from the McLaren driver. He will not be very happy about that. There must be a problem with that Renault engine, with why he's running very slowly, as now Tibos gets himself through on a set of mediums. So that McLaren does not look like it's running very quickly at the moment, so he'll be sticking with the faster Renault of Tibos as he tries to fight his way through the rest of the pack between himself, Kyle and his teammate. Will Kyle make it easier for the F1 Championship leader as they go towards 130R now? Will they be risking a side-by-side action? I don't think Tibos will be wanting to do that, so he holds back. He might try and get him under the brakes into turn 16. Let's have a little glimpse. He holds back as Kyle locks up into 16 through 17. It's probably going to be an easy move for Tibos along the back straight, although Kyle does have DRS as well, and slipstream, which is not really benefiting the second Renault driver. It's not. So Yuri runs very wide, and Kyle is through, and so is Tibos, and Tibos has clipped the rear of Kyle. He has got wing damage there, and that will be calamity for the other Renault driver. Calamity for both Renault as well. So Juarez was making a mistake that's literally costed his teammate a chance of getting victory in this race for the F1. What I don't think there's a lot of damage, but I saw some carbon fibre fling off that Renault, and they were wanting to push on now, probably with the damage, because he won't want to be pitting again, as he just pit on a set of mediums, as he would have wanted to run towards the end of this Grand Prix. So YSL has been getting into a little bit of a few incidents in this. He already got a severe, well, Carl got a severe collision with him earlier on. He's now caused havoc for his teammate as well. So hopefully his teammate can cause havoc on Kyle, the championship leader. The two championship leaders are going to be doing battle for some points. Tibos is right on the back. He doesn't want to get too close, otherwise there might have been a bit of desync there and sent Carl flinging into the wall through 130R. Tibos looks like he's going to be the guy to be getting past him very quickly. Nearly clips the rear end and shoves himself into the wall to try and avoid it, but he's way past Kyle, way before even the 100-metre mark of turn 1, and an easy move there from Tibos pushes himself up into the podium positions in the F1 series. He's now got to try and chase down Major Davis in the Ferrari. There's a 4.6 second gap between those two, as a Robo Jeep seems to be running away with this in F2. Yeah, he's got a 6-second gap to Davis in P2, and he's on soft tyres as well, so both on a different strategy call. But you'd think with Major Davis's time trial lap times that he can push out, you think he'd be able to close in on Robo Jeep with the extra speed he thinks he can get in that Ferrari. So Kyle is keeping on the back of Tibos, just keeping within that 1 second. But where it's key, he needs to keep within that 1 second down the start finish straight, because that's where he'll get the DRS. As Neo makes his first and probably only pit stop, will he be on? He's going on to a set of mediums. Where will he come out in respect to Tibos and the other F2 drivers? Robojeep goes cleanly through. What about Davis? Will Davis go cleanly through? He's going to have the overspeed. He does indeed. So Neo has come out way in front of Matt Tibos. The gap is 3 seconds. It was somewhere around that when Tibos made his pit stop. So as Wires gets himself a 3-second time penalty, that's another driver with another penalty in the Grand Prix. Tibos now is on the same strategy. You will have 3 lap older tyres towards the end of this race, but it's got to try and push down and try and close that 3-second gap, otherwise he won't be getting anywhere near a chance of getting victory and pushing his title hopes further adrift from Madher, who is currently leading the F1 race on those softs. So running through the order quickly as gaps are starting to appear between the drivers, we have Madder currently leading F1, still yet to make a pit stop, with Robojeep leading F2, still yet to make a pit stop as well. Does Madder come into the pit? Does he follow suit with Neo? He does not. He feels those softs are more comfortable to keep going at, as Neo has gotten by Davis through 130. Oh, Davis wants to fight back. He has every right to, but he is not going to be anywhere near into the braking zone of the chicane and starts to fall away a little bit on exit of turn 17. And so Neo is pushing on now as a gap to himself and Tibos. Tibos has pit. That wing damage must have been causing havoc for him, which is why he has made a pit stop. He is coming. It's come to serve his 5-second stop go, and will be putting on another set of mediums with that wing change. However, he won't be losing any positions, or will he? Or will he? He looks like he will be losing positions. He's lost positions to Marged, so he is off the podium at this point in the Grand Prix. Although Marged will probably be pitting again, he is on a 7-lap old softs. Probably will run about 3 or 4 more laps on those. But yeah, Tibos has ran all the way down to the last place in this Grand Prix. Last place in F1 and last place overall. So he just wants to run his own race. He's a long way away from any other driver. same as Ahmed was when he had to make his early pit stop. So he's just going to have to run his own race, and then he'll be bringing home championship points. But as I was saying, AVR Mada is currently leading the F1 series, as he looks like he's going to go for another lap. That's how quickly it gets through these laps. As I was speaking about before, and then switched to Tibos, he's already done another lap. And then we have Rero Jeep, 13 seconds adrift on the same set of tyres. Will he be making a pit stop? No, he doesn't. He's comfortable on those softs. He always loves a good strategy, does Rero Jeep. He loves using the two softest compounds in a 50% race. Loves stretching tyres as far as they can go. With Neo behind him, 1.1 seconds on the mediums. But he's currently in P2 in the F1 category. And then you have Davis still running calmly in P2 in the F2 tier. And then we have Metzer and Y-Racer exchanging positions as they both come into the pits. Looks like Metzer had a wing change and Y-Racer didn't. So Y-Racer has come out in front of, just in front of Ahmed actually, as well as being way in front of Metzer, as Metzer falls to the bottom of the grid now as well. But all on a set of mediums, they'll be pushing all the way to the end. Y-Racer needs to get some heat into those tyres as quickly as possible, otherwise they'll be losing out to Ahmed on those 10 lap old mediums. I'm not sure whether Ahmed will be able to push those to the end. It'll be very excellent of him if he can, but I assume he will be pitting again, probably for a set of softs to push to the end, as Mada is in the pits now in that Ferrari, and he's got himself a 5-second stop go penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Silly from the Ferrari driver, braking a little bit too late in towards the pit lane. His 5 seconds probably won't matter too much because he has a huge gap to the rest of the grid, especially between himself and Marged. But it's quite costly, as Kyle is now into the pits for his one and only stops. He's pushed those softs 12 laps. He does have a 5-second stop go penalty which he's serving, which he got for his collision between himself and Y-Racer. So where will this put Kyle? Just looking down, we have Marged coming through the final corner. I think he'll comfortably come out in front. Then you have Y-Racer followed by Ahmed and Tibos. So where will Kyle come? He's exited the pits. The rest of the drivers without the overspeed, but Kyle has rejoined in front of his title rivals of Y-Racer and Metzer. So, and he's on fresher tyres, but he'll be on cold tyres as Y-Racer was to Ahmed. So very close now, the grid, after these pit stops have been made. Hopefully some excellent battling we should see, if they can keep up with each other, as Tibos gets himself by Ahmed quite easily through turn 7 of the Dunlop curve. So Tibos is, as I've said, he was running his own race, but now all the other drivers have made their pit stops, he's back in it essentially after making an extra pit stop. The biggest loser, I think, if we look at the position change, is Tibos, who has fallen 5 places from his starting position of P3, and RoboJeep has made the most positions. Although he is in a different tier, he has made the most positions on the grid overall, with Davis making 6 compared to RoboJeep's 9. Yeah, excellent work from the Toro Rosso driver, but then again, he is yet to pit on those 13 lap old softs. And it looks like he's not gone in again, so he'll be pushing long and long into this race to try and push the alternate strategy on himself. If he does make this work, he should easily come out in front of the Red Bull driver, and which will be easily in front of Kyle Y-Racer, and this battle for the final podium position in F2. So if anything goes to plan, even if he was to pit now, RoboJeep, he should easily get himself a P2 or even a P1, or just easily a podium in this Grand Prix. gap starting to fall away between Y-Racer and Kyle. It's over the 1 second DRS window as Kyle has finally got those mediums up to temperature. As you can see, the two Ferrari boys have swapped position, and Kimi Raikkonen, Sebastian Vettel-esque kind of display there for the Ferrari boys, as Davis is still yet to stop, and it looks to be the same thing now with the Renault drivers, as Tibos has got by Y-Racer in the two Renaults, who will be wanting to try and bring themselves back into the championship constructors battle. But it's going to be fantastic points from Ferrari. They're both going to get in a double P2 compared to a P1 and a P3 for the Haas, but they probably will be extending their lead in the constructors title battle. So when Davis and Robojeep make the pit stop, they should be coming out respectively P1 and P2 in their tier, but P should be P3 and P4 in this Grand Prix. As Y-Racer gets himself another penalty. All these drivers don't know what track limits are from the looks of things, of getting penalties after penalties, trying to push themselves to the limit, and to the limit gets himself a penalty. Metz is has closed in on Ahmed. It looks like there might be a move here anytime soon, as Robojeep has let Matter got by through 130R with the slipstream and the braking zone of turns 16 and 17, as Matter is now in his way, should be in P2. As you can see, Neo has run away with this Grand Prix once again due to the fact that he kept out of danger, whereas Tibos ended up getting stuck in traffic between his teammate and the other F2 drivers, causing him calamity towards the spoon curves. Davis is right on the back of Robojeep. Those softs look to be worn out to hell, and brought Davis back into the fight for the victory. Both drivers will be looking to push and pit onto a set of supers probably. I'm not too sure either driver will be wanting to go onto any other compound other than that. Davis would probably go on the softs, but then he could just push them to hell all the way through the rest of this race. 11 laps is very easy on the set of softs, so he could pit then, as there's a little bit of a battle between the two F1 drivers of Marged and Matt Tibos towards turn 13 now along turn 12. They are side by side up towards the spoon cover, and the move has been done round the outside of, and Robojeep is gone. What's happened there? Major Davis made the move, and Robojeep has retired from this Grand Prix. He must have lost it going through 130R. Those tyres were dead as hell, and he has retired from this Grand Prix. Those drivers could have been going side by side, so it could have been a Davis fault. I can't see any wreckage of a Toro Rosso rolling on board with Tibos, so I'm not too sure. Oh, there he has. He has lost it. Lost it going into the pits. Davis could have had the outside, could have had the inside and been blocking him into the pits. Who knows? But gifts Davis an easy win here around Japan. There could have been some steward inquiries towards the end, but who knows what happened there, as Margaret makes his final pit stop as well. It looks like all these drivers, I think other than Davis, have made a pit stop, so it looks like the standings look to be set in stone if no driver makes any other mistakes, with Neo taking F1 victory with 10 laps to go in this Grand Prix. Mada falling away is 14 seconds behind in P2. We have Davis leading the F2 series in the other Ferrari. We have Tibos further adrift in P3. We'll be taking away a podium in the F1 tier, as Davis finally makes his pit stop. Does he slow it down enough? He does indeed. Ahmed gets himself 3-second time penalty to add on to that. Where will Davis come out? He should comfortably come out where he already is. I'm not too sure the pit time, but I think Tibos is going to be a long way away. Yeah, he's coming through the final few corners now. Davis is already towards the exit of the pit lane. He's there now, as you can see in the background of Tibos coming around the final corner as he sets the fastest lap of this Grand Prix. It looks like he'll be getting himself the bonus point in F1. I'm not too sure who will get the bonus point in F2 unless it flashes up on screen. It could be Davis. He is on the freshest set of rubber other than Margaret, so he could be getting himself the fastest lap bonus point. So this grid started to settle out now between these drivers. No more battling from the looks of things it's going to be, although it could be a little bit of battling between Tibos and Davis. The gap is 2.7. Kyle is further adrift by 2.5 seconds, and Waracer is further adrift. It doesn't look like it, but 3 seconds is a lot of time in Formula 1 racing. Anything that's with it under a second is seen to be even still quite far away, but it is as close as you'd want to be between any other driver. So there's no more pit stops yet to be made. There's yellow flag in sector 2. Not too sure what that is for. You notice Margaret is running very slowly through the exit of the hairpin. Doesn't look like he has damage, but he's got Ahmed right on the back of him now towards Spoon. Trying to keep a look on that detail of his front wing. Doesn't look like there's any damage, but he should be able to run to the end of this race. But he's going to have the Mercedes driver all on his gearbox going through this final sector of 130R. Although Ahmed seems to be dropping back a little bit, he's out of the 1 second DRS window, which he would need to be under to get himself anywhere near overtaking Showman into turn 1. Yeah, the gaps are still fizzling out. Carl is keeping himself up to speed with Tibos, the gap to 2 seconds. So this championship looks like it's set in stone pretty much, with Neo, Mara and Tibos taking the podiums in F1, and then you have Davis, Kyle and Waracer. After Robojeep's unfortunate incident, Waracer looks like he's getting himself a podium, but Kyle will be extending his championship lead. It also looks like I've just bagged myself a trip down the pub after this, so if there's nothing interesting happening on screen, a little bit of interesting information for you to know that I will be going down the boozer at the end. I know a few of my fellow Team Speed drivers will not be wanting that, but who cares? You've not made this race as interesting as I thought it would be. To be fair, more drivers are the more interesting it gets because there's a lot more battles on screen, and then I've not really seen Japan to be a very interesting circuit to be watching anyway. I know it's very difficult to drive around, but as Tibos gets himself a further 3 second time penalty, I don't know whether that will affect him that much in getting himself the final podium. I'm not too sure the penalties between himself and Showman. I will have a little glimpse as a look at the race directory. As you can see there, Ahmed, the only driver to be on the 2 stop, and then obviously Robojeep and Flexi not making a pit stop as they both have crashed out. We look at Neo, he has got only the 1 warning, a very clean driver there, in a top tier driver of himself. Then we have Mada, he had the stop, he has a 5 second stop go, but I don't think Tibos is anywhere near within 5 seconds of closing that. Davis, not a single warning or penalty for Davis. Excellent stuff there from the Ferrari driver. As who's in the pits? Tibos is in the pits again. What has he done this time? And he gets another. He gets a 5-second stop go penalty. Fantastic from the Renault driver. He looks like he must be pushing for fastest lap, although I believe he already had it anyway. He might have thought he'd already get as P3 anyway. I think he might do anyway. He'd probably check the gap between himself and Margaret to see if he was capable to make another pit stop without causing too much damage. And he has come out comfortably in front. He's going through turn 2, and Margaret is coming up towards turn 1 now. So 7 seconds is the gap between them, and an absolute open field between these drivers as Margaret gets a 3-second time penalty, another one. I believe that's another one as well. So gap to the leader, 17 seconds between Mada and Neo, and then it's a further 23 seconds to Davis, 40 seconds off the lead. Kyle 48 seconds off the lead. Y-Racer 55 seconds off the lead. Metzer nearly a minute. Tibos over a minute, but he has made a second stop. Margaret with over a minute and 11, and then you have Ahmed with 1 minute 60. I don't think anybody's going to get lapped. It is a high 120 lap time. So unless Neo can gain 13 seconds on Ahmed in the space of 5 laps, then I think all drivers will not be getting lapped in this race. As I was looking on, and Margaret has left session, must have had an internet problem there, but he should be getting, more than likely will be getting his points, seeing as it was towards the end of the race, and he did manage to complete 22 out of 27 laps. But yeah, as I was looking at the standings to see who had penalties, yeah, fantastic work from Davis, not a single warning from him. Kyle, on the other hand, got a stop go. He did serve that, and then he got a penalty and plus 1 warning, so he's got a 3-second time penalty and the 1 warning from Kyle. Y-Racer has, I want to blur that, that's disgusting. 1, 2, 3 penalties from Y-Racer and a fellow 2 warnings, so if he gets another warning he will be getting himself a 4th penalty. And then we have Tibos, who has 4 penalties. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 penalties. It says that he's got 2 penalties and a warning, so that's 5 penalties for Tibos, so that's 15 seconds there, although I think he got a 5-second for speeding in the pit lane. And then there's Ahmed with the single penalty, Margaret with a single 2 penalties, with 2 penalties. He managed to get 3 warnings on 1 map, then get a single penalty. Interesting. And that is it for the race directory. So looking towards the final few laps of this race, who would I say is my driver of the day? Just looking at, actually I'll look here at the fastest laps. I can see who gets bonus points now. So it looks like Tibos is going to be getting the bonus points as he sets an even quicker lap time as I was looking at it, literally staring into the soul of that 1 minute 30.6 as he did set. Now 1:30.4 for Tibos on those fresh set of super softs. So the driver that looks to be getting the bonus points in F2 is currently Major Davis with a 1:31.2. He's 6 tenths quicker than Kyle and 1.7 seconds quicker than Y-Racer's fastest lap, and 6 tenths quicker than Ahmed as well. So Major Davis looks like he's getting literally as many points as possible. He's getting at least 26 points from this Grand Prix here today, so it really helps him the most really in his fight to draw himself into the championship battle for F2, with 4 races to go after this. It will be America next, as we hop over the other side of the world into the Americas, as Metzer and Ahmed are battling side by side there. Metzer late dive up the inside into the hairpin and gets the job done. Keeps his championship alive. He wants to get those key 12 points take them away, slash them away from Ahmed, and push himself towards Kyle and keep himself ahead of Davis as much as possible. As Tibos keeps pumping in fastest lap after fastest lap, so 1:29.3. I think he's definitely getting the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. from any other driver, as Metzer did pit onto a fresh set of supers. I didn't see that, although I've not been seeing a lot. I've been seeing much, but there's not really been much to be watching. So it looks like Metzer will be wanting to push himself for the fastest lap in F1, and he does indeed. It's a 1:30.8 from Metzer, so he wants to get that bonus point for fastest lap on those fresh set of softs, the super softs. Now, what is the gap to himself and YSR? Huge. He is not catching him in a million years unless YSR does to make a pit stop. As he gets himself a 3-second penalty, does Metzer, just to absorbing the wound on himself getting the fastest lap. As we come to the close, I was going to, as I was saying, going to look at my drivers today. I'm going to give two drivers today. I'm going to give an F1 driver and an F2 driver. Quick look at the position changes. Not really that key, considering they qualified somewhere different compared to their actual qualifying position in their separate tiers. But from the looks of things, just based on intervals and driving skill, I'm going to give the F1 driver of the day to ILRT Neo for a fantastic drive up the front. Always a pleasure to be watching him race. He loves to push as much as possible. He's a very quick driver and deserves the credit, so he's going to be my driver of the day for F1. But for F2, I'm going to give that to Major Davis in the Ferrari. He didn't start on the front row of the grid. He has helped himself doing the alternate strategy, starting on the mediums and now on a set of softs, and it looks like he's going to bag himself a victory, as EVR Matter is cheekily, very cheekily, gone to serve his 5-second stop go. It won't matter too much. He's pitting onto a set of supers and wants to steal that fastest lap away from Matt Tibos. Who would have thought a single bonus point would have meant so much to these drivers? They are making it interesting for myself to watch, so we are going to ride on board with him as Davis, his teammate, sweeps by in the sister Ferrari. So he will only have one lap, won't matter. He has one lap to heat him up and one lap to push for the fastest lap. I wonder if this is a strategic call as well, because he can get the slipstream of Davis down 130R. So if I was Davis and you wanted to help a teammate out, help your fellow teammate out, don't slow up too much, keep the gap quite simple, but then when it comes to the 130R, when he's on his flyer, give him a little bit of slipstream, give him the overspeed and get himself the bonus point. I'm sure Maddo will be very appreciative if he does that. So we'll start to see this gap close down between these two drivers. Hopefully they don't do a calamity and take each other out. That would be very smart of the Ferrari boys, so I think it'd be a good idea to take each other out. But yeah, coming towards a close, as my F1 driver of the day, Neo, is on his final lap of the race, gets himself a penalty. He was running very cleanly throughout it and gets himself his 190 penalty. It won't matter, he's 47 seconds away from the nearest car. Actually, he's closer to lapping someone than he is to a car behind. So very quick driving from Neo there. Up towards Spoon Curve for the final time for the Haas driver. Taking it nice and easy, but still putting the gap away between the Ferrari boys. Down 130R. Flat out using all the ERS, all his fuel, all the tyres that are left into the braking zone of the Casio Triangle. And round the final corner to get, almost hit that edge of the pit wall, but get himself a victory here in Japan for F1. Fantastic drive from the Haas driver. As you can see, as I mentioned it, they're probably hearing me on the comms as well. The Ferrari boys are within a second of each other. Hopefully he's not too close to be holding on into Spoon, but EVR Mada is through before 130R. So they obviously team orders were given beforehand, before getting them towards down Spoon. So towards 130R, right on board with EVR Mada. Excellent drive from him, keeping his nose clear. Once again, get himself another podium. Into the braking zone of, I can see a triangle with his teammate, and across the line. Does he go purple? Does he set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix? He does indeed. He gets the bonus point of a 129.1. He didn't need the extra overspeed from his teammate down towards the back straight, and gets himself P2. Major Davis gets himself the victory for F2 in the sister Ferrari. Kyle gets himself a podium of P2. Tibos gets himself a podium in F1 of P3. Wyre still will be getting himself a podium of P3 as well. So both Renault's P3, both Ferrari's podium. Actually, it's Haas, Ferrari and Renault dominating. Big Metzer comes around the final corner to round off a miserable McLaren day in P4, and then Ahmed rounding off the grid. Haas very happy with themselves, celebrating on the top step of the podium in a sandwich of the Ferrari boys. They're spraying champagne all over the crowd. Fantastic stuff for my two drivers of the day. So we're going to run through the classification quickly. I would have read it through, but I'm going to read it through there. Is it classified now? Once again, we have Neo taking victory in F1, and then Mano in P2 in F1 as well. Then the F2 winner is Major Davis with Kyle in P2. Tibus getting P3 for F1, and his fellow teammate in the Renault getting P3 as well. Metzer failing away to get a podium in P4. Ahmed in P5 and Margaret in P4 in F1. Quite a few penalties there, but great work from the Ferrari boys, keeping himself out of trouble. Not a single penalty between them. So fantastic work from those two drivers. So to conclude this Japanese Grand Prix, Mada closes the gap in to Tibos, but not as much as you would hope, or as much as Mada would hope. But a close is a close, and Davis brings himself into the championship battle in F2 as Kyle continues to storm away ahead of the other drivers. So I have been your commentator today, TGI Peter, and this has been round number 17 here in VSL. Next week is the Circuit of the Americas in Texas for round number 18. Not many rounds left to go, and season 2 has already been announced for the races as well, so hopefully we'll see you there as well. Thank you and goodbye.